He's a funny one, isn't he? Old Mr. Bean. I was about to say he doesn't exactly strike you as prime video game hero material, but actually he sort of is, provided we're looking at what was served up to us in the 8-bit computer era. Mr. Bean would have fit in well with the likes of Chubby Gristle, Wally Weak and Technician Ted. We've lost the art of having a good old British dork as being the protagonist, and being somewhat of a British dork myself, I'm feeling quite underrepresented. Thank the goodness of God's pure light for the international popularity of Rowan Atkinson's Mr. Hulo-esque near-silent goofball then, so at least our late 2000 brethren could get to play as a character you would probably question if they were sat near the swings in the local park by themselves. Before I celebrate too wildly, perhaps first we should remind ourselves of the universal appeal of this distinctly British slapstick tour de force. Conceived by Atkinson whilst he was working towards a Masters in Electrical Engineering of all things at Oxford, the character of Mr. Bean was utilised very early on in the County Durham-born comedian's on-stage career. Mr. Bean was tested on Edinburgh Fringe's attendees in the first half of the 1980s, and in a one-off appearance, albeit under a different moniker of Robert Box, on a show called Canned Laughter. Atkinson also used the character on a French-only speaking variant of Just for Laughs in Canada, doing a wordless masterclass of physical comedy that wowed attendees. Atkinson then teamed with Richard Curtis to make a TV show version that had a mere 15 episodes in its 5-year run from 1990 to 1995. But what an impact it made though. A 1992 episode, The Trouble with Mr. Bean, had a massive 18.74 million viewers, with the show winning multiple awards across the world. It had a huge international fan base, with Mr. Bean being shown in 225 different countries, with the character's popularity being enough to star in 2 Hollywood movies and also a 2000s era animated series, a series from which this game draws its character lineup and its character stylings. So why is Mr. Bean so popular still? Well, it's the universal comedy of slapstick and physical silliness of a childlike goon finding themselves in a dodgy situation and then making decisions that make that situation a lot worse. It's done by an absolute master, and it's simple stuff but done by an incredible creative and rubber-bodied genius, and well, I absolutely love it. Even the cartoon's entertaining. The first console or computer game released based on Mr. Bean was released in 2007 for the PlayStation 2, called Mr. Bean aka Mr. Bean's Wacky World. It was a third-person 3D action game which tasked a titular gonk to locate 750 cat biscuits to use as a ransom in a kidnapping of his best friend Teddy. Cat biscuits. I wonder who would want cat biscuits. Who could this mystery assailant be? Published by Mastertronic and programmed by Beyond Reality Games, the title had a later port in 2009 to the Nintendo Wii and the PC. In between its PS2 and Wii release, there was another game, this one, Mr. Bean on the Nintendo DS. Featuring the same storyline, this version instead uses a 2D side-on perspective. It was published and coded by the same teams. Yes, it is that Mastertronic, the one you're thinking of. Well, sort of. It was a relaunch of the popular 8-bit computer brand, some 12 years after the demise of that particular company. They released a fair few licensed games in this iteration before moving on to mobile phone games and PC shovelware jank. Games based on movies like Babe, Beverly Hills Cop and Charlotte's Web came from Mastertronic, alongside TV shows like Little Britain, Captain Scarlet and Xena. None of them were very good. Beyond Reality, the coding team, were a Norwich-based house that developed titles based on the Yamaha motocross bike, Wacky Races and Thunderbirds. Again, none of them were that great. Mr. Bean's DS venture then, you'll be surprised to find, it's not that great. It's the boggiest of bog standard Crash Bandicoot-style platformers, tasking you with running left to right, collecting objects and avoiding wildlife in order to win back your beloved Teddy from his captor, who is almost certainly, I would say, a cat. You can select to be either Mr. Bean or his nebbish hookup, Irma Gob, but there's no real difference between the two. Various weapons can be collected along the way, such as a pirate hat that makes our eponymous oaf invulnerable for a short period, a pan for hitting the shite out of moles and dogs, and a fly spray can, which isn't just for taking out bees. If you've ever wanted to blast a tin of Raid in a pensioner's face, here is your chance to do that. There are very few stages, all sort of based around sort of very suburban locales and the odd sewer apparently. But what's on offer is incredibly long, boringly so. One stage is set in an old lady's garden and it sort of just stretches on forever. Who owns this house? It's got to be someone who avoids tax in the Cayman Islands for sure. You need to collect absolutely everything in a stage in order to progress to the next stage, sort of adding a very linear kind of longevity. Otherwise you have to do them all again. This shouldn't be too difficult. There isn't any way to kind of deviate from your left to right path in any of the stages, but that just means there's no hidden chests or secret tunnels. However, it is still possible to miss stuff that's in plain sight, as you'll need to go through objects once the chest you hit is open to actually collect the objects, which makes them quite easy to miss. I mean, there's not too many games in which you have to sort of collect things twice, as it were. So you will likely miss something and then have to replay the entire level all over again in order to collect that part, which, as I said, are on very long and very boring stages. There are little flaws all over the place, to be honest. The puzzles, for what they are very simplistic. You drag a box over to a switch which opens up a gate, both of which are right next to you. Not exactly taxing and not in the least engaging. Some of the box puzzles rely on you dragging a box over to a higher box so you can get up onto it. However, they've not really spent a lot of time with sorting those boxes out, as the hit detection on the boxes sometimes enables Bean to sort of stand a pixel onto that box, meaning you don't have to drag the box at all. It's sloppy stuff. There are mini games too. I got stuck doing one, which was a whack-a-mole thing on the touchscreen, which, you know, par for the course with these sort of games, because I wasn't quick enough. It's obviously easier to use a stylus to hit those mice, but as I was using a mouse, it's a little bit slower and therefore I couldn't really do it. That's not a real problem to do with the game itself for when it came out. It's more if you're trying to emulate it, so it's not really a criticism, I suppose, but it did mean that I couldn't capture stages from later on in the game. Now, if the game had allowed you to retry stages to build up a score rather than completely freeze you out unless you get absolutely everything, then, well, maybe that is an issue. It's not entirely bad, I suppose. The graphics, while not incredible, are fairly good interpretations of the cartoon's visuals, but the backgrounds don't really vary along their incredibly long length. So, yeah, it's not great. The control is crisp, though it is very limited. There's not much going on beyond hit and jump going on here. It's a real nothing burger of a game that's indicative of the shovelware era that Nintendo seemed to foster. I'd like to extrapolate this on a longer review, but there really isn't a lot to it. It's nothingy. It is hard to turn comedy shows into a game. I'm not entirely sure how you'd make a Mr. Bean game live up to the TV show, but whatever it is, it's not this. Very, very bland stuff. There's no reviews of the game from the time, unfortunately, but if you want one from me, I'd say it's a throbbingly 4 out of 10 if ever I saw one. Next up, let's look at something on the Nintendo Entertainment System, as we're going to have a look at Tiny Toons. I used to like Tiny Toons, and apparently the game's pretty good too. A decent platform game? Well, I never. Like, subscribe, and K, thanks, bye.